and welcome back to another week of Activate. I hope that each of you is feeling more confident and equipped each week to fully activate your faith. This week, we have one of our biggest missions yet, so I hope you're ready to be fully activated today. We've been hearing each week about the Great Commission that is stated in our series Memory Verse. We've been reciting it weekly, but today I want us to really dig into the message that's being told to us. It's so important because that verse is telling us the importance of Jesus sending the disciples into the world to share the good news of the gospel. Let's start by reading our memory verse together. Therefore, go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Matthew 28, verse 19. When we hear the word go, we may think of a big action of going from one place to another, changing our direction. But something cool about it is that when you look at the original Greek for the word go that Jesus used, it means as you go about your way. So as you think of as you go about your way, we realize that this is a daily occurrence. When you go about your way, you go about your day. The Great Commission just becomes a natural part of our everyday existence. Our one thing today is, I will tell others about Jesus. To live with an activated faith, we must be obedient to Jesus' commands to us. He commanded us to go and make disciples. Jesus left the spreading of his gospel to us, but not to us alone. He also empowered us to be able to do it. He gave us the Holy Spirit not just to be an active part of the process, but to literally empower each and every follower of Jesus for the task. The Holy Spirit lives in and works through us. But you will receive the power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you will be my witnesses, telling people about me everywhere, in Jerusalem, throughout Judea and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. Acts 1:8. We receive power from the Holy Spirit, and that is true for you and for me today. Just invite him to live in you, and he will empower you and go with you as you share the good news of the gospel of Jesus and live according to his word. God has important work for us to do, but we must do it through the power of the Holy Spirit. We can't try to take matters into our own hands and run ahead of the plans that God has for us. Yes, we go, but we go with the Holy Spirit. But when the Father sends the advocate as my representative, that is the Holy Spirit, he will teach you everything and remind you of everything I have told you. John 14:26. In this verse, Jesus is reminding us that we'll never be alone and we won't be helpless because we have the Holy Spirit as our advocate to help us as we are on this mission that Jesus gave us to tell others about him. We heard a few weeks ago about how we need to stay connected to our source, Jesus, once we live in close union with him. Being equipped with the Holy Spirit helps us as we go about our day sharing the gospel to all nations. The power that believers receive from the Holy Spirit is exactly what is needed to fulfill the mission of our one thing today. So remember, I will tell others about Jesus. So let's make this practical. How can you and I do that? Well, first, we can keep it simple. When we become followers of Jesus, he transforms us, and we do have a story to tell. That's the best and easiest way to tell other people about Jesus. Just tell them the truth that you know, how he changed you, and what he's done in your own life. And we should always be ready to tell others about Jesus and to tell our story if someone asks. Just like 1 Peter 3, verses 15 through 16 says. Instead, you must worship Christ as Lord of your life. And if someone asks about your hope as a believer, always be ready to explain it. But do this in a gentle and respectful way. 1 Peter 3, 15 through 16. Your story is your story. But don't forget to include the gospel. Your story isn't your story without how Jesus has changed and transformed your life. Remember, we're talking about sharing with someone who doesn't have a relationship with Jesus. So don't think for a second that you have to know all the answers or have it figured out or go into some deep philosophy or final points of theology. The simple good news works best, and there's always time for deeper conversations later. So keep it simple. And number 2, keep it personal. You are the only person in the world who has your story. Tell your faith story. Talk about the transformation that God has worked in your life through his power. There's a powerful story of a man in the Bible who couldn't see. Jesus touched his eyes and his eyes were healed and he could see again. And the first thing he did was go and tell others his story. I don't know whether he is a sinner, the man replied, But I know this, I was blind and now I see. John 9:25. Jesus healed the blind man and completely changes his life. The blind man didn't understand everything. He didn't have all the answers, but he knew that the transformation he had experienced was real. He didn't need to know the why or the how. He just knew that his life had been miraculously changed and that he was not afraid to tell people the truth about this transformation. And the great news for you and I is that we don't need to know all the answers to share our story of Jesus with others. Just tell people how your life has been changed and trust that God will use your story to help others believe too. I want to challenge you to identify someone that doesn't know Jesus, find the opportunity to share Jesus with them, and just tell your story. In 2 weeks, we celebrate Easter, and that's a wonderful time to invite a friend to come to church with you or to come to Easter Jam with you. So this week, your challenge is to invite someone. Pray and ask God to show you who to invite, and then be obedient to invite them and trust that God will work out the rest.